Now live. Glitchy. Mic check. Ha ha ha. All right, my lights are lighting. Things are thinging. Looking good. I'm going to talk today about some ponds that I stocked 3 years ago and how the misinformation holds people up in pond management. They go online and they look for information, and I could see how they come by it naturally, and it just happens. Most of the stuff you find about fisheries management is a half truth mixed with a kind of an old wives' tale, and it's been perpetuated by professional fishermen and anybody who's had a platform. They didn't do their research, and they just kind of go with what they've heard before. And you know what I should have done? I should have brought the photos in here. I'm just not real good with the computer yet and streaming all this stuff. I could have the actual pictures, but it's on the Facebook and on the YouTube community part there, on the post part, and also on Instagram. The posts are up there as well. So I'll start with the pond that I haven't covered as well. And that pond is a 2-acre pond owned by a friend of mine from high school, actually. Moved pretty close to where I used to live in Georgia and needed some help, stocking the pond. And so we did. And it's a new pond. They built the pond on the property, and a brand new pond. That's the best way to start your pond management career, I guess, is to start from scratch. And if you have an existing pond, and I tell people all the time, just drain the pond down so you can treat it. If you can drain it dry, that's great. It's easy. You don't have to treat it. Just get rid of the existing fish population and start from scratch. Because you need the balance of the fishery. You need the proper numbers of forage fish and the proper numbers of predatory fish. And in a pond, you don't want any other predators, because it's limited space. It can only grow so many fish. So we want the exact right species of fish stocked into our pond. Otherwise, you won't get the results like I'm getting in these examples, because it's not perfect. And people just instantly kind of assume that, how do I put it? Since a big lake, reservoir, or river has a diverse group of fish, that therefore my pond needs a diverse group of fish. And it's actually the opposite. We need to do very specific fish in a pond. It's a real simple. Hey, what's up? Hooking up. Welcome aboard, man. I got started. I got caught up in a conversation a little earlier. And oh yeah, thanks, buddy. So what I've figured out is the old lives are, I'll put the comments up because it's easier for the people to see. You've been watching all the old content that I've been uploading. So the old live like this is not shared like a regular YouTube video. And I was not aware of that. Actually, I had a nice conversation with Chat, the AI thing, and figured out that I need to. So basically what it is I've got a live on YouTube that I have to download back to my computer, then in turn upload back up to YouTube into the video section instead of into the live section. So that's what I've been doing. And I messed it up today. I had them, I was posting them too many, I uploaded like 2 or 3 today. And I figured out in the whatever this is, software, I guess, how to get them, over time. The next one at 8 o'clock, the next one at 8 o'clock, the next one at 8 o'clock. So there'll be more coming down the line over the next couple weeks, I guess. And I just figured I'd jump in here tonight and talk about the new ponds that I have going, the Sugar Hill Outdoors we talked about plenty of times. Yeah, I appreciate you hooking up, man. I appreciate that a lot. Had some time tonight, so I came in to talk about the new pond setup. So I'm gonna call the other pond I started this out before you came in. My friend Ginger has a pond near my house, old house in Georgia, and built a new 2-acre pond that I stocked for her. And if you saw the post on Instagram, it looks like the kids probably got close to 7-pounder. They didn't weigh it, but it looks like a decent fish. Maybe a couple 5s, 5.5, 6, somewhere in there, on a 3-year-old pond. And I started the talk out saying, when I go to someone and they have a problem with a pond, the easiest and least expensive way over the long term to do it is to drain it and restock it, start it from scratch, the way we do a brand new pond. You're going to get the best growth. You're going to get a lot less expense over time, because you're not going to have to go get fish from the fish hatchery that are adult fish. We can stock the smallest fish and let them grow, which is the way I recommend you do that. By stocking the smallest fish, you're stocking the least expensive fish. The longer they stay at the hatchery, the more time and labor they have on them, the more expensive the fish get. You're looking at the last time I bought 4 to 6 inch bluegill, they were like $1 a piece wholesale. So, if you want 500 per acre of nice 4 to 6 inch bluegill, you're going to, most guys probably doubling it. It's $1,000 an acre, where you can go get them for like a quarter or 30 cents or whatever on the small ones, and cut that cost down. Just grow them yourself. So stock the pond, let them grow, give it 6 months to a year, then stagger the bass in behind it. And there's plenty of forage for those bass to eat. But to touch back on the point that I was making right before you clicked in, most people assume that they want a diverse forage base in their pond. They want this fish and that fish, and their shiners and this and that. And it's not like that. You have to think about it more almost like agriculture. You have a limited space, just like if you had a pasture and you wanted a cow. Well, how many acres of pasture do you have? Because you need an acre of grass to feed 1 cow. You can't put 10 cows on an acre. You're not going to have very healthy cows. They're going to starve. It works the same way for fish, because there's a limited amount of plankton. There's a limited amount of zooplankton. There's a limited amount of aquatic insects. There's a limit to the amount of fish that you can grow. And you have to stock according to that, right? And then we can boost that limit. We can feed, we can up productivity with growing plankton, with fertilizer in some areas of the country, right? We can up the limit, but there's still a limit. If you go past the recommended rates, you can grow even more fish. Like if you say, well, I'm going to feed my pond 5 times a day instead of once or twice a day, and really overfeed the pond, you're going to exceed the limit. And what's going to happen is, like, what goes in one end of the fish comes out the other with the feed in the form of fertilizer. You're going to have an excessive phytoplankton bloom. You're going to kill all the fish. So you can't just grow as many as you want. There's a sweet spot. We can boost it, but there's still a sweet spot, and we're limited. So that means you can't stock as many bass as you want. right? And that's what guys don't get. It's like, oh, I'm going to go over there and get these fish from public water and throw them in my lake. That's a bad mistake. Your lake is already topped out. You already have all the fish you can hold. They'll not naturally level themselves. Our job is to balance that natural leveling process in our favor, right? The ponds left alone tend to naturally balance towards bass heavy because they're not keeping enough fish anymore. So the bass get a little overcrowded. There's no predators in a pond to limit the bass reproduction. And when you do get predators in a pond to limit the bass reproduction, they're also limiting the other forage that the bass are eating. So you see the weights in the bass drop immediately. Again, we're dealing with a small body of water. So we see these impacts swing more widely than you would see in like a natural big lake. We can get great growth in ponds though. Like I said, the 3 years stocked 3 years ago, and the kid caught a 7-ish pounder, big old fish, because I did it right. Because I got the bluegill in there. I stocked it with bluegill. I stocked it with some red ear, just a few. The red ear are shell cracker. Some people call them shell cracker. And they can get freshwater snails out of the bottom and crack them open and eat them and transfer that protein into forage for bass. Their shell cracker only spawn once a year, a little earlier in the spring than the bluegill start spawning. They're a little warmer water. So you get a little forage pop and a little activity out of your red ear early in the spring. That's good for your bass population, and reducing the snail population with the shell cracker reduces the parasites on the fish, because most of the parasites that get into your fish are hosts. Those snails are hosts to those parasites. So having a shell cracker, if you have a pond that your fish have a lot of sores, make sure you get some shell cracker stocked in there. And that'll help get rid of those nasty sores on your fish. We don't want sores on our fish. We don't want, falls back into added stress. Just like we don't want to drag them across the ground. We don't want to handle them with dry hands. We don't want to jaw jack them and sprain their jaw. There's a whole series of safe, of things that we can do to minimize the stress on our fish, because the less stress that they're under, the faster they grow. If they're sick and their immune system is dealing with some kind of illness, especially a preventable one, kind of shooting yourself in the foot from, a fish production standpoint. And that I see it all the time in the tournaments and stuff. It's like they're doing everything possible to injure the fish and then putting it back like they're doing it a favor. It's like, if you're going to treat it like that, just put it in a cooler and eat it, and you see it in the mortality rates, the studies that they're coming out with after these fishing tournaments. And that's a big part of what drives me to do this all the time, because we need to treat the fish better. We need to treat them. I don't care if you want to keep the fish and eat it. That's fine. I'm not against that. It's good for the fishery. But if you're going to put it back, let's go through the steps, right, of handling them properly. So when you put it back, they've got the best possible chance of not getting sick and surviving, not the worst part, not beating the crap out of it and putting it back. It doesn't make any sense. And that's what I see on the internet all the time. It's they disregard completely the fish handling and the health of the fish. And then that also falls into how we stocked it. Just like I described, we're using the fish. We're using the exact fish that we need. We're using bluegill and red ear as our forage base, and then bass. A very simple ecosystem, very simple food chain. And simple grows fish better than complex, because once you get a complex fish population off, you can't correct it. If I get green sunfish, if I get crappie in my pond, I've got to drain and stock it all over again if I want to get these kind of results that I'm talking about right now. Clint from Sugar Hill sent in a nice 5.5 pounder, big old tank of a fish, like a 20-inch fish. It should be 4, and it's like at 5'1", 5'2". So just very heavy and healthy, length to age, relative weight comparison, growing exceptionally well. And that's what we can expect. Now, Clint also went to the additional expense of stocking some rainbow trout as forage. Okay, we can get away with that. There's little things that we can get away with. He also did the additional expense of stocking some threadfin shad. I don't have a problem with that. In the right area, in the right pond. I'm good with that. There's certain things, little things that we can get away with that will enhance our bass, but I very rarely see anybody do that the way that I would do it. And I also very rarely see anybody who grows bass as well as I do. And I don't mean that to be a brag, like just hold the weight up. What did you do? You did 7 pounds in 3 years. Okay, great. I did it 20 miles down the road. I've got 5.5 pounds in 3 years. Right. But let's break that down. That's what I wanted to do this one about. Why did one fish in one pond on 2 ponds stock the exact same year? Right. Why did I get a 7 in one and a 5.5 in another? Why aren't they equal? Well, there's a lot of factors involved there. First one is the rate at which I stock the bass. I stock the bass in Ginger's Pond at a lower density than I stock the bass at Sugar Hill Outdoors. And the reason why is because Ginger's husband is big. It's like catfish too, channel catfish. So we also stock channel catfish in the pond. And I've just learned this through trial and error. You're not going to read this in the books. The books are going to tell you different rates and stuff. But I've learned that because of catch and release and because we changed the way we manage our ponds, that I have to scale back on the predators. So I put in 100 real nice channel cats for him that will take feed and grow really fast, just like all the other fish. Channel cats especially will take feed, and they will begin to compete with your bass for forage once they get to like 5, 6, 7 pounds when they're as big as the bass, right? They do a pretty good job, and I've got 100 of them in there, and I know they're going to keep a few. We're going to have some mortality, right? And he wanted big catfish, so I didn't go in with a. If he came to me and said, "Hey, I'm going to be hitting these things, or I'm going to have them fish fries, and we're going to eat these fish," I would have done more than 50 catfish per acre. But he wanted big catfish too. So I kept the stocking density of the catfish down as well. The idea there is he's going to throw a limited amount of feed, again, because we can't throw unlimited amounts of feed. We're going to cause plankton blooms and a fish kill if we do that. So for the amount of feed that he's going to be throwing, I'm putting in a lower number of catfish, so each individual catfish gets more feed and grows faster and gets big quick like he wants. We also added bass. You need bass in a pond to help control the system. That simple system, it needs bass. It needs the bluegill and the bass. You can't get away with one or the other. It gets a little tricky if you don't do it right. So I only stocked 30 bass per acre. That's why we're seeing those fish outgrow the Sugar Hill Outdoors fish. Well, that, and they're also F1s. There's a different, we've got Floridas and Northerns as like a little genetics experiment in Sugar Hill. This one is just, I stock with pure F1s, which is a cross between the Northern and the Florida, and those grow faster and get bigger than a Florida or a Northern. So we've got a genetic advantage and we've got a lower density stocking strategy advantage. And that's how I was able to get the bass so much further ahead of Sugar Hill than Ginger's. Now, on the flip side, Ginger's probably got some, I didn't see any catfish, but I know by this time they've got some monster catfish in there because they've been feeding. So at this point, you're going to see that 7-pounder is going to have competition from catfish. And it's going to limit that 7-pounder's ability to get to 10 pounds because there's other predators competing with it that we don't have over at Sugar Hill, right? See how this is all blending together? Depends on what you have and how you do this. And this, I learned the basics at school, at the University of Georgia. But then the rest of this is trial and error, how to, and for where I'm at too, I couldn't do the same things in a different part of the country. I'm going to have to, have a different strategy. If I'm going to a different place, and have to be aware of that. Massachusetts, welcome in, my friend. We're just talking basic pond management stuff and how I've manipulated the fishery to my advantage, so to speak. Okay, Hooking Up's got one. Some tournament guys are all about the money. Yes. Well, we've got that problem in our country, don't we? Everything is justified with money. I'm going to handle this bass like this because this is worth $20,000. Well, a bass over 10 pounds is worth more than $20,000 to me. It's worth more. It's priceless fish. It's a very rare animal on this earth. I wish I could get that information to more people. Your justification of money to me with holding a fish like that doesn't hold water. Yes, you do need those fish. That's exactly right. Hooking Up. We need those fish to continue tournament fishing. And that goes back to one of the prior lives that we did. We were talking about how the tournament and the poor handling is if our bass population is a pyramid, we're shaving off the biggest fish. The smallest fish go back. They get cold. The biggest fish stay in the live well all day. The biggest fish get handled the worst, right? We need to redesign that. They need like a more of a tournament. In my opinion, they need more like a kayak tournament strategy where the biggest fish are somehow weighed and measured and registered for the tournament and returned immediately and not even held in a live well at all. That's where I'd like to see this go. I don't know if I'll ever see that in my lifetime, but that would be the best thing for the health of our fisheries. Oh, that's I appreciate that, my guy, J Rock. He says he's been following on Instagram and he's listening and he's listening to Steve Barden, and it's all good stuff. Well, you're in luck, my friend, because we had actually just talked to Steve today. He's got to bump he's coming on here on September 3rd, and we're going to chop it up. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation. I've never got to talk to him like this. I've got to talk to a lot of cool people, but not Steve. So that's going to be awesome, man. I'm looking forward to that. He's got it's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. So really looking forward to it. All right. Hooking Up's got me up. Up in the north, a 10-pound is a once in a lifetime. Dude, a 10-pounder right here is once in a lifetime. I'm not kidding. There's a bunch of big fish in my backyard right there. I'm not out there, catching them. I haven't been fishing as hard lately with the health issues, but it is absolutely a once in a lifetime. And if you're lucky enough to touch 2 10-pound bass in your lifetime, we certainly want to do the best possible job to keep that very rare animal alive. And that's the exactly reason why I keep saying it. You're never going to break the world record. You're never going to see a 20-pound bass when you're treating the 10s like this, right? And that's kind of how I frame it in my mind because, all right, example, again, I'm just going to imagine 30 years of me stocking lakes, right? And I didn't get to stock new lakes all the time, but I've stocked a lot of them. And the kid's got a 7-pound bass in 3 years. Do you know how many 8-pound bass I've caught? I couldn't even count how many 7, 8, 9-pound bass I've caught that I've personally grown. I don't know. They're not that big to me anymore, right? They're a huge win for everybody in the world but me. Like, I catch a 9-pounder, flip it back. Like, that's pretty good. Let's go back to back. Let's see if we can get 2, it's not that big a deal when you fish in ponds like I used to have. You catch fish like that. But it is a big deal? North of 12. Even in my awesome ponds with awesome growth, it is hard to grow a 12-pound bass. And once they get north of 12, once they get into the teens, that's even harder. As a matter of fact, I've done it twice. And the one time I'm not even sure that the dude measured the fish properly. So for certain, I've done it once. I had a 14, almost a 15 pounder in one pond. No, I take that back. I had a 13 pounder in another pond. I've done it twice in 30 years. I've gotten a teener, right? Because it is super rare and super hard. It's like a lottery win, man. Even with everything done perfect, you still got to hit it on the screws with the weather and things that are out of your control. And it's just an incredibly hard thing to do. So like the video that I gave those guys such trouble on about the 15 or 16 or whatever he was holding pounder from Arizona, that's a sin on their souls to treat a fish that big like that. They just don't even know what they're doing. Just don't even know. Don't even know. That ain't never gonna happen for you again, Chief. And that 16 pounder isn't gonna grow to be 20 because you killed it. You know, what would have happened in that video if he'd have taken that big bass and just stuck it on ice? Because after he did what he did to it, he might as well have. Those guys would have had a panic attack if they didn't put that thing back. But you can put it back. It's turtle food. I'm getting a lot of comments in now. Oh, thanks, J-Rock. Yeah, man. I did that. That was from about a year ago. I got with Mike. I got to meet Mike when I lived in Georgia. He wasn't too far away from where I used to live, maybe 2 hours away with traffic. And got to go to the shop. And if you ever get around Ackworth, Georgia, you definitely should drop in and make sure if the shop is open. Sometimes he's on, what is it called? At the Bassmaster Classic or something on the road selling, lures that way. But his shop is open certain times of the year. Just double check before you go in there. But it's great, man. He's a great guy. He's got a great company and he makes great lures. And just happy to call Mike a friend of mine, really. Yeah, 3 over 10 pounds, and you're a heck of a fisherman if you're catching that many 10 pounders, my dude. I promise you that. J Rock says he caught his personal best 7 last July on a jig. Not surprising. 23 inches in New Hampshire. Nice. And that's about 100% relative weight fish. We've talked about that many times, Jay. A 24-inch bass, if my memory says 8.1, so a 23 is about a pound behind that. So that fish is sitting, right where what we consider an ideal weight for that fish. And pay attention to that lake. Fish that lake repeatedly enough. We just learned that pattern. When you start seeing 100% on the relative weight scale, because most lakes don't produce those fish at all anymore. And people use excuse. Again, how many guys have you seen holding a fish going spawn and stress? No, it's not that. It's out of balance. Not eating enough. It's the same reason the dogs at the kennel look skinny. Not enough kibble. Yeah, there you go, hooking up. See, you guys, I'm proud of you guys, man. Nailing it. Yep, you're exactly right. Hooking up, took the words out of my mouth. A 20-inch bass is an ideal weight at 7. And if it's north of 7, it's probably in one of my ponds or in a pond like I'm doing where it's on feed, it's on fertilizer. We were tweaking it, and that's important to understand too with these ponds. It's a different measurement in a pond fish that's on feed than it is a public water fish. 100% relative weight public water fish has my attention, right? That's in the sweet spot. That's a good lake. It's not being fed. It doesn't have that advantage. We would expect all of our fish to be 100 because it's artificially boosted, for lack of a better term. No, man, that's a beautiful fish. You absolutely should be pumped, man. That's a fantastic bass for a big, a public water lake. You don't see that very much anymore anywhere. And that's another thing about like places up for, again, New Hampshire, 7 pounder New Hampshire, right? Hooking up. That's a great fish for up north. But it's just proof too that the longer growing season down in the South doesn't necessarily mean you're going to grow bigger fish, because if the balance of the fishery is off and the bass aren't growing, do I need to say that again? The bass aren't growing. I don't care about your growing season when they're not growing, right? We have to get them growing, and then we have an advantage with a longer growing season. If they're stunted to hell and back, not growing. So what difference does it make how long the growing season? Growing season could be all year long. Could be South Florida. If they're stunted, they're not growing. I made a comment on one of the posts today on the pictures that I posted about that exactly. You know, whenever I see some guy just jackleg on the internet and the first thing he starts talking about is genetics, you just showed me your hand. You don't know crap. You're a misinformed, YouTube fisherman or whatever. You don't understand how this works at all. You don't know what you're talking about. If they lead with genetics, now I'm not saying genetics aren't important. I've got some of the best genetics swimming on the face of the earth in these ponds to get this kind of growth. Don't get that twisted. But again, if I did not stock it properly, the genetics wouldn't matter. They wouldn't be growing. Yeah, Hooking Up's been fishing 37 years, man. He's old like me. Fred, welcome in, my friend. What you got for me? All right. Fred says that keeps most of the bass he catches in a pond, but he releases some of the healthy and mid-sized fish. Sure. Ponds in Mississippi. And the water temperature's pretty high. Okay. Yes, that's a good question, Fred. The water temperature, and a lot of factors. Again, we need to handle them quickly. I think the best person that I talk to, it'll be coming on onto the videos here. Watch for the live that I did with Jason Dotson, and he's the head fisheries biologist for here in Florida, for all of Florida, the FWC, and he broke it down. He wants, handle with a wet hand, use a net, support the belly, support their internal organs for if you're going to hold for the picture, and practice all the safe fish handling skills that you can, but especially where temperature can affect survival here in Florida, especially, you can say you're up by the springs catching fish and your live well's got nice cool water in it, but then you go back to one of these fingers where the weigh in at the boat ramp is, and the water temperature is much higher because it's topped out in weeds and it's just a different part of the lake. If it's more than 10 degrees difference from the live well to the lake water, that'll temperature shock them. That'll kill them right there. So temperature shock is an important thing to understand. Like if you cool your live well off in the summertime with ice, you need to rewarm those fish back up for 20 or 30 minutes, slowly add some warm water and make sure there's not a 10-degree temperature difference, because you can literally kill fish just with temp shock. It's actually pretty easy to do, especially when we're dealing with the temperatures that we're dealing with. And I would say in my ponds, when I was catching fish, I would get them in the net, and you see a lot of my pictures. I'll just take a picture of the fish in the net. I have a net actually. There's a couple of them out now. One's by McLean, and the other one's by what was that company? I saw it at ICAST. They got nets that will weigh the fish in the net. You just scoop the fish and get the weight. And what I normally do is just take a picture of the weight and take a picture of the fish in the net and just put it right back. And Jason said inside 30 seconds, they want the Florida bass not out of the water for longer than 30 seconds. So, all these little things, just when we start lining up all these little things the right way, we're stress reducing, improving survivability. Every little thing, every little percentage is there. Whereas right now, what I'm looking at, every little thing is reducing survival, the ability for the fish to survive, and then trying to release it and hope it survives. It's like, we can do this a smarter way. Okay, we've got little personal chats going there. I'm going to skip those. Okay, I'm going to scroll back one sec and make sure I didn't miss any questions or anything. I appreciate. I got 8 folks in tonight. Hey, welcome aboard, everyone. Thanks for joining in, and thanks for watching all the videos. We probably have some of our regulars watching some of other videos right now that aren't here right now, but that's okay. I just wanted to come in and touch on those 2 little ponds and that growth, and that specifically why that growth did to what it did. If you guys have any other questions, I'll take them. Otherwise, I'm going to cut this one into like 35, 36 minutes. I've been wanting to do a little bit shorter format. I think just in my mind too, I'm trying to use my own browsing as as data. And sometimes I see a video that's an hour. I'm not watching it for an hour, but maybe if it's like 30 minutes, maybe that'll be, maybe that'll get more hits, more views. Because ultimately, it's just really important to me that this information gets out, and we start doing a little bit better in managing our fish, because I want to see that world record broken, and we're getting in our own way. We're shooting ourselves in the foot with everything that's going on. That being said, I'm just going to cut it here, and I really appreciate you guys coming in and all the support over all the years and all the new folks. You see what I'm saying? Hooking up? Yes, let's cut it off now, and I'll be back tomorrow night, and we'll do it all over again. Appreciate you guys.